No, it's not related to the Office character. Although I think they got inspiration from it.
Right, of course.
Christian's wife actually has said it multiple times.
I don't think she
genius.
has. By the way, do you want to say hi to them?
Hi.
There you go.
Hey, Allie.
Yeah.
I got.
This one was in theme.
Ooh, this one is in theme. I got a little Star Blast bang.
Oh, we're getting banged up.
I know, it's not
over
bad,
here.
dude. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate you. Yeah, we will have fun. All right. Anyway, back to the podcast.
Oh, man. Yep. And then James Gunn, the actual director of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, hell
He's
yeah.
the one who's,
Well, I mean, yeah, because he would interact with Kevin Feige a lot.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And that's why I'm going to be Kevin Feige's second in command.
Right.
You know, to take over when he leaves.
Mm-hmm.
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 Yep.
Yeah.
Well then. All right, dude. Yeah, fuck it. Why not? Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Star Boy.
Wow, that was really creative. I'm Dan.
I'm John.
Wow.
Okay, cool. This is Cape Shit. What the fuck? We got to get the energy up here. What the fuck is happening with this podcast intro right now? This isn't good. This is bad.
Oh, he caught me off
it
guard
looks like
with the
we all need a
Excelsior.
bang.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. Hey, what's up, everyone? It's time for another episode of the very high energy podcast known as Cape Shit. My name is Christian.
Wow.
Of course, your fearless commander, leading you into the brave unknowns. I am brave, and you're going into the unknown palace. But I know what the palace is. You don't, however, which is why you're listening to your favorite podcast that, of course, you've been telling all of your friends and family about at this point. I'm sure I don't even need to say that at the top like I have been doing. I've said it enough times at the top that you're just doing it now. And so, you know what?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. I actually have a docs sheet of every individual that listens to this show. And if we ever start trending downwards in the downloads, I will be releasing it onto the dark web. And, you know, I got a lot of criminal buddies up in there, and I think that they would have a little fun with your information. Sitting here next to me in spirit at all times is, of course, John, and sitting somewhere in a sad apartment in California is Dan. So, hey, what's going on, guys?
Oh, it's very sad.
No, that's fine. Thanks for releasing the state that I live in.
Yeah,
I was trying to keep that secretive.
Right,
so.
sure. Yeah, what's up?
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's no other way they'd know that I'm from California.
Right.
You know, not by any of the things that I say during this podcast.
Yeah, of course not.
I'm a man of the people.
You're always
you know?
shrouded in mystery.
It's true.
Yeah.
It seeps off of him like so many other things constantly seeping off of Dan.
Well, you know what else was shrouded in mystery?
Yeah, what?
The Guardians of the Galaxy.
Whoa, yeah, hey, that was our
Talking
movie
about-
this week. Yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Guardians of the Galaxy, Dan?
Wow. Well, you know, I'll say that the Guardians of the Galaxy was kind of the first MCU movie that people didn't really know what to expect out of it. It wasn't necessarily like one of the biggest pop culture teams or groups of superheroes before this came out, like Iron Man or Captain America or Thor. So people were kind of unsure what to expect out of this movie, but it turned out really well. Grossed $772 million worldwide.
Wow, didn't even break $1 billion. Sad.
That's
Yeah,
chump
I
change.
know. How
yeah?
sad, really.
Jesus Christ, what a flop.
Yeah, well, it came out August 1st, 2014. That's probably why. Everything released August 1st doesn't make $1 billion. That's what I've heard.
Unfortunately.
What?
Yeah.
Who says that?
Everybody says that.
Everybody.
Don't even worry
Oh,
about it.
Okay.
It was directed by James Gunn, who will go on to direct Guardians 2, the upcoming Guardians 3, and also did the revamped Suicide Squad and the Peacemaker show for DC.
Right.
Peacemaker.
And he was also
Which, yeah.
briefly canceled for a string of tweets alluding to wanting to be pissed on by children.
Great. So I was going to
Sick.
leave that out for
Okay,
this
but,
one.
no,
but
I
I'm
mean,
glad
but
that we-
you know, it happened.
I figured it'd be better for Guardians too.
Yeah,
you
it was quick. You know what I mean? Like everyone was
Yeah.
like, "Hey, that's not cool," and we were like, "But actually, we kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy. You can come back."
Yeah. He was pulled off the project. Then everyone on that project said they were going to not come back
Right.
until James Gunn came back. So
Right.
there you go.
And because they all condoned his actions.
You can all take from that what you will. We'll leave it at that. We had a list of so many celebrities here. Chris Pratt. I mean, the voice of
that?
Mario.
Yeah.
That's how you should know him, obviously.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Which,
Chris Pratt, famously the voice of Mario.
yeah, less than a week from today, we'll get the first teaser for the Super Mario movie,
Oh,
by the
boy.
way.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
I
Hey,
cannot wait.
new podcast incoming, fellas.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Just based on Chris Pratt as Mario.
Pipe shit.
Pipe shit, dude. Hell yeah.
Oh, God. Zoe Saldana as Gamora, Dave Bautista as Drax, and Bradley Cooper as Rocket Raccoon, and then Vin Diesel as Groot. by the
Diesel.
way.
Dude, I saw that in the intro. Or
Dude,
it
I
was-
audibly laughed.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck? How did I have no idea? I did not know that up until I watched the movie. But I'm like, yeah, it's like you could have really had anyone as like the CGI funny man plant guy. It's just such a weird pick for it to just be Vin Diesel.
Well, he not only voiced Groot in English, but he voiced Groot in all of the other languages that this movie is
Whoa.
available in.
Wow, what a
because
range!
I know. I don't know if you know this, but for the whole movie, he only says, I am Groot, except for one exception at the end. So,
Wait, does he actually say I am Groot in all the other languages?
yes.
But like, isn't I am Groot like his specific language? So like, wouldn't you not have to translate it to other people's language?
Look, we're not here to go.
Meomo S Groot.
Actually, yes, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. Yeah, he learned what the phrase was in each language and then translated it for each
Oh,
version
man.
of the movie
Yeah,
that was
that's
released.
That's
awesome.
fucking silly, dude.
Yeah. And that's a quick rundown of the Guardians of the Galaxy. And we can just hop right into Earth 1988.
Whoa, hey,
Right.
everybody,
My favorite
everybody
year.
remembers that year.
Well, I was not born yet. I'm very young and vibrant,
Right.
as people know me to be.
Vibrant? What the fuck? I don't know if anyone's
What-
ever
what an
described you as
adjective.
vibrant.
Don't worry about it. Everyone else says that. Those 5 people I named earlier,
Right.
they all say
Sure,
that too.
yeah, of
so.
course.
Oh wow, you're just a
Yeah.
vibrant genius.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you so
dude.
much. That's I've heard that many times. And that's where we get our first look at this cassette tape player, which
Right.
is a Walkman. Did any of you guys own cassettes at all back in the day? Or are you too young?
I'm too young for that. I had a CD Walkman.
Yeah, I had a I had a boom box that had a CD player, like you put a CD, but it also had a cassette thing in the bottom of it. So I was like right at the
right,
cusp.
right.
I was right at the turn. There were still cassettes around, but they were already sort of being phased out in favor of the
Yeah.
compact disc.
Thank you so much for
Fascinating.
that. Yeah, I had one cassette, I think, my whole life, and then I went to CDs. So
What was it?
what that cassette was,
Yeah.
I couldn't even tell you.
Yeah?
I have no idea.
I bet it was something dumb.
Wow, thank you so much.
You're welcome. I was trying to think of what a dumb example would be, and everything
but
I
you
could think
couldn't.
of was just too cool, because that's
It
how
was-
my mind works. I only think of cool things. I couldn't even
Yeah.
think of something not cool for an example of what you would own, because I shut it out of my mind. I don't think about things like that.
Well, do you know who Raffi is?
Yeah, duh. Of course I know.
Yeah, it was
Raffi is.
probably a Raffi cassette tape.
Well, that's
honestly.
pretty cool. If I thought,
Yeah,
if I,
Raffi-
you know what? If I know what
Raffi
it
was
is, it's
cool.
pretty badass.
Anyways, all right, now everyone get serious because
Okay.
now we're in the hospital.
Right.
All right.
Yeah. Now
We're in
everyone
the
gets
hospital.
serious because his mom has cancer.
Bro, why does his mom look like the Sorcerer Supreme?
Dude,
Well,
dude, his mom. This is something that I want to say too. Is I'm just like, I do not believe that woman has cancer because she's so hot, and it's like I shouldn't look at like a
even as a bald cancer
right.
patient,
Even as a
it's
bald
like-
cancer patient, I'm just like, if you've ever actually seen a real human being with cancer, like you wouldn't be like, oh, I want to fuck them. You know, it's like, but
Okay.
with
Jesus Christ.
Quill's mother, I'm just like, bro, it's like,
Do you
yeah.
do you realize that many different kinds of people get cancer. I don't know if you know.
Yeah,
that.
but not the dying ones.
Yeah.
The dying ones don't look
Right,
like
because the deal is it's set up where it's like she dies that day. You're literally witnessing her final moments on Earth as this beautiful cancer cherub. You know, it's like it doesn't track with me. I don't believe it.
Okay, well, she does mention something about his father in this moment, which we hear some few references throughout the course of this movie, and it doesn't seem like the dad's actually coming back. He went to go get cigarettes and then never showed back up, and now he's somewhere else in the galaxy.
Right.
Doesn't seem to be on Earth.
Can I just say, I hate child actors. Like, I feel like every time a child, especially in the MCU, but I just hate child actors. They're usually so fucking bad. It just makes me not want to watch the movie anymore.
Right. And was this an exception?
No.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, this child actor was not as bad as other child actors in the MCU, let's be clear. But, man, as soon as I saw him on screen, I was like, do we have to watch this movie?
Yeah.
I think you just hate children.
Well, I mean, that's a given.
Yeah.
But especially if they're acting.
Yeah.
It gets boosted up by
Right.
10.
Stop
Yep.
that.
Yeah. Stop acting, please.
Peter runs out of the hospital in sadness, I guess, and
In
anger.
grief.
In grief, and gets
Despair.
captured by a spaceship,
Yes.
as people often
Yeah, as
do
you
when
do.
they go outside,
Right.
with no witnesses.
Especially in year 88.
Yeah, but not before his mom hands him a present that will be important later.
Yes, very important.
Yeah.
It's a cassette.
Yeah.
Whoa,
Whoa, hold on. Come on.
I know.
Dude, that was
Come
like
on.
the dumbest reveal of the movie to me. It's like popping, it's like propping, and now we're skipping all the way to the end. Sorry guys, but Dan already, but they're like propping this thing up. It's given to him in the first scene, and there's constant references to it throughout the entirety of the movie, and you're like, what could this thing possibly be? And it's just like a cassette. It's like, who fucking cares, dude?
I mean,
Peter
come on,
Quill
you
cares.
can't be looking at it that shallowly, though, right? Like, his mom gives him this cassette for 26 years.
Right.
All he has is volume 1 of this music set to remember his mother by.
Right.
And that he never opens up this other cassette. And then he realizes at the end when he opens the letter, he reads what she says, calls him Star-Lord. We get the reveal of how he gets his name. And then he gets a cassette with more music to remind him of his mother.
Yeah, it's
like,
stupid.
come on.
I mean, but he would. But it's like
come on.
no, but it's like a dumb movie. It's like why? It's like 26 years has gone by without him like having like the urge to open this fucking package from his dead mother. He just like needed to wait until the time was exactly right to do. It's just not real. It's like that's like some Marvel shit. It's like they marveled you with that fucking package, dude.
I don't know about
I
that.
was marveled by the package.
There you go.
Yeah,
Anyway,
well.
that's the end of the movie, folks.
Yeah, I
We're
guess-
still at the beginning.
Anyway, so we're 26 years later on the planet Morag. And there he is, Chris Pratt, the voice of Mario, still listening
Mario himself.
still listening to Awesome Mix Volume 1. Man, it'd be great if he had a Volume 2, right? What an impactful gift that would be to find out about.
Right.
Anyways,
If only he had that at this point. Unfortunately, he does not.
2 ships pull up. They're either tracking Quill or what he's going after, and then we see the orb.
Oh my god. Yeah.
This orb is very important.
Very
but
important.
We don't know why.
It's very
just yet.
powerful. Yeah, you don't know why it's powerful. You don't know what it does, but damn it, if people aren't looking for this bad boy.
Star-Lord is a Ravager. That's what he does, and he's going to get the bounty on this thing. He talks with these people who roll up, and he says, "You might know me by Star-Lord." Like, who? I like that nobody would address him like this later on as Star Prince as well. I like that name as well.
Yeah,
Sweet-
it was to this movie's credit. I did, I guess, sort of enjoy how the kind of was written as a bit of a goofball. You know, it's he's not taken as seriously as some of the other heroes, and there's like sort of more of a comedic stint to the entire thing, which I think like when it worked pretty well, but I would also say it fell flat a lot in this movie to me. Actually, like a lot of the moments that were trying to like kind of be comedic were just like kind of cringe and weird to me, but there were like some genuine like kind of like to that scene when he's just like, you might know me as Star-Lord, you know, and it's like, and they're like, who's that? It's like, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of funny, you know, whatever the fuck. I didn't hate that.
And that's something that like James Gunn does a lot, is he undercuts every single moment, every single scene with some sort of like comedic line.
Sure.
And after a certain point, it just gets old, you know, like especially if the joke isn't even written that well.
Right.
It's like, you know, it's coming, so it just falls flat no matter what the joke is.
Yeah, or it's like sometimes it felt like jokes were sort of ham-fisted into scenes where they were like totally, completely unnecessary. Like the tension, like it wasn't even that tense, so you didn't really need to cut the tension, and yet anyway you still have someone being like, you know, poop balloon or just some dumb shit, and it's like, well, fucking,
yeah,
like
I remember the poop balloon joke. I think it was poop. It was turd blossom. He calls the guy turd blossom at one point. And I was like, that. It's like you just didn't need to do that. Like it's not, you know, whatever the fuck.
But
anyway.
but how would they know that they're a turd blossom?
Right. I suppose they wouldn't if he hadn't said that. So.
Yeah. So I think we get it now.
Sure.
We get a jump onto a ship. As he narrowly escapes until Old Faithful takes him out.
Can I say on this thing too? Like, I think that like the CGI actually pretty cool. Like honestly, like legit, like a step up. I mean, you know, when he's like kicking the, you know, the little like rat things, like the rat lizard things. It's like it's obvious that it's CGI, right? Like, you know, I wasn't like, oh my god, it's so real. But it's like it was like serviceable and it worked well. Like it's like kind of cool. Like the, you know, all of the environments I thought were actually done pretty nicely. Like but then it's like there's this one weird part like right in the beginning where it's like everything's like holding together really well, and then when he like does like the slow motion jump, it like cuts to a scene of like him from the front doing this slow motion jump, and it just looked so bad. Like, and it was weird because it was like jarring from the rest of it, because everything else like looks pretty good, and then he does this weird slow motion jump that like looks really shitty, and then he like lands and it's like back to looking good. It was just strange to me. I was like, why even have that?
I think I had the same thought in the slow motion part.
Yeah.
It just like it felt like some things were moving slow and then some things were just completely frozen.
Yeah.
And then some things were moving like normally.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like
no,
done
for sure.
that
Yeah,
well.
it was just jarring because the rest of it was pretty good, and then you had this one like weird like 5 seconds of like, what the fuck is this? And then it like kind of goes back to looking good again. It was just it just stuck out to me.
And I do want to say that like the beginning of him just like messing around, dancing around with the little reptile dudes, and then like him activating his rocket boots. Like I really like the feel that they gave him and his gadgets, because it feels like something physical that he has to do, right? He's not like actually super powered. He just has these gadgets that he's used to using.
Yeah.
But it all feels like what's the word? Grounded.
Yeah, totally.
In an actual world.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Yeah, it's almost like kind of like reminiscent of like Iron Man when he was like first getting used to his gear, sort of.
Exactly.
But it's like, you know, he doesn't have like an Iron Man suit, so he's just perpetually in the state of like always being a little awkward whenever he uses it.
Yeah, he can't automate it. It's all just him.
Exactly.
Using his body.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah, I did like a lot of the worlds that they built for this movie, including Morag, but also like as we get into other parts of this movie, I just the scale of the CGI and the worlds that they built were just really kind of insane in this movie. It was really cool to see.
The establishing shots are always really sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
and I think that I liked about this one too, maybe if I have like a positive to say sort of about the art direction, like off the rip, is I liked how imaginative it was. Like there's just like it's like super creative and like fun, like weird colors, weird like even some of like the extras like in the background, like things that like they didn't need to be fleshed out super well. There still was a lot of attention to detail to them. Like you'll have like weird creatures in the background that like are only there for the one scene and you don't see them again for the rest of the movie, but it's like they just almost kind of serve as a set piece to make the entire world feel fantastical or whatever. And I think they accomplished that really well. I actually I liked the visuals of this movie more than I've liked them in any other Marvel movie. But you know, we're gonna get grounded back to earth again pretty soon here, and I will continue to be bored with the Marvel visuals, but I got a little respite from that this time around.
Yeah. Well, as he narrowly escapes and goes through this kind of gravity battle as his ship is falling and he's trying to save it, and he finally is able to escape, we find out that there is someone in the ship, and we get this great line where he says, "Oh, I forgot that you were there," and I just wrote, "Oh boy."
Yeah.
Was it needed? I guess apparently so, because she's the one who's going to answer the call for Yondu.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. They have to like establish in that moment, and they kind of have to establish this in the entire movie that it's like Peter Quill fucks, dude. It's like,
Yeah.
and they really want to make sure that you know. It's like this like constant thing across the entire movie where it's just like, yeah, Peter Quill fucks aliens a lot, and it's sort of like it's kind of weird to me. I get it, but also it's like you don't like really see any of that like in the movie necessarily. I mean, I guess there's like one sexual tension scene with Gamora. I mean, there's more than one, but there's like the one like big one where, you know, whatever. But like you don't really like see any indication that like, you know, Peter Quill is like a ladies' man, like running around doing but it's like other than the fact that it's just like referenced by everyone constantly, like it sort of felt like this like jarring, like, I don't know, it was like chirality, like it didn't like completely match up to the character we were being
Wait,
presented
what is that
with.
word?
Chirality. It's like
Can you spell that for me?
CHIARAILTY. Probably. I don't know. I'm bad at
Okay,
spelling.
I believe you. It's cool.
But yeah, it's just it's like you know, it's like incongruent like actions and behaviors. You know, it's like
Got
you know.
you.
Yeah.
Somebody reads a book.
I actually just played the video game Death Stranding. Anyway, back to you, Dan.
Oh, there you go. There it is. Okay. That makes sense. Yondu mentions that Quill is only alive because of him, and then we find out in a little scene afterwards that he was cargo. We should have delivered him like we were paid to do. More references that Quill has a larger backstory than we're realizing. And now in this next, like, I don't know, 5 minutes of the movie, I don't know if you got this too, but I try to take notes of like where it's going, what the story is, so we can kind of talk about it. But there was so much story crammed into the next 5 minutes of this movie that I had to rewind it twice to make sure I got all of it. Yeah. So we find out more about the Kree race. We get the first look at Ronan and his blue naked man as they're like dressing him. Find out that the Kree are against the Xandarians. Xandarians. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, Xandarians.
First look at Gamora and Nebula. We find out that they're daughters of Thanos. We find out that Ronan promises Thanos to retrieve the orb. We find out more about Xandar and that they're the home of the Nova Corps and that it's kind of future Earth-like, right? So, like, that's all within 5 minutes of, like, this story.
Yeah.
It's a very quick catch up to why the Kree are kind of going after Xandarians.
Well, and I feel like even you saying that, it almost touches on a point, which is what I think is the perhaps biggest fault of this movie for me, is that like I felt like it kind of suffered from some pacing issues at points. Like in order to get things moving along, like they throw a lot of shit at you really, really quickly sometimes. And sometimes like the character motivations just like sort of 180, like based around like one conversation. You know, it's like there's not like a ton of like build up to stuff. It's kind of the series of events of just things continually happening. And, you know, and you even sort of like see that with like Gamora when, you know, she's like, oh, I'm gonna like steal the orb. And then they're like, hey, fuck you, you tried to steal the orb. She's like, no, you don't understand. I only stole the orb because actually I don't like Thanos. And then they're like, oh, okay, cool. It's sick. All right, come with us then. You know, there's like a lot of moments like that.
Didn't
Yeah.
really play into my critique of it. For me, it was more of just like the way that a lot of exposition would just come from these characters in really like just the most basic ways. Like the whole rivalry between Gamora and Nebula was set up in the most like amateurish way possible. Like they were like just fighting from the get-go, and it was very like, oh, he told me that I was gonna do this job, and she's like, no, I'm better. And what's his face? Ron's just like, no, you're right, you're better.
Yeah, no, you're right, you're like better. You go. Then they're like, now we're enemies for the rest of the movie.
And, yeah, I know. It was just like, and the whole part. I mean, like it's a little bit later, but the whole part where they get captured in the prison, and then the dude just like reading off the description of like the origin stories of each of the Guardians of the Galaxy,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, you didn't need to do this. Like one of the things I wrote down before that scene was I actually like how quickly all the characters have gotten introduced, and the cast got together pretty quickly in the first like 15 minutes of this movie. And you get a good sense of the personalities of each of these characters without them having to really explain it. You just get it from like the way they interact with each other. And then they had to go and ruin that by giving us the list and details and origins of all of them just like read off to us. And I was like, oh, okay, never mind. It is a Marvel movie.
Yeah, and I think also sort of like to Dan's point too, and maybe I'm going to play the role of John for a moment and like bridge that. I think it is like there are like moments in this movie where it feels like your hand is kind of being held when it doesn't necessarily need to be. And then there's other moments where it feels like they just sort of throw a ton of shit at you and expect you to figure it out, and they don't really like go over it again. It's like, and I guess that's kind of what I meant by like pacing. Like just some of the ways that the story unfolds were sort of strange to me. And I also kind of had some moments like Dan was talking about where I was like, wait, did I captured everything right? Like I like there's moments where I felt like I maybe kind of missed something amidst all of the other things that were happening.
Yeah, it's an interesting balance, I think, that was trying to be struck here with this movie, because again, the Guardians of the Galaxy were not, I mean, this movie wasn't necessarily the most hyped up movie that came out in the MCU, right? We had just gotten Captain America and the Winter Soldier. We had, Thor Dark World before that. We had Iron Man 3, right? We had like the Avengers, all these big like movies with characters that even people who didn't read the comic books kind of knew about. And so there was this kind of responsibility for James Gunn to make you like the characters versus just making you know their backstory, right? So it's like, Captain America, you're not going to have to sit there and try to get you to understand why you like Captain America. It's more going to be focused on backstory, how he got there, all that. It's like Captain America is already an established kind of hero in the pop culture to an extent, whereas Guardians was a completely fresh take. And so I know there were some pacing issues, but I think some of it was mostly focused around like getting you more screen time of just the Guardians on screen, talking to each other, interacting with other people. And I think that that's one of the things I noticed is that there was a lot of screen time for every character, at least that was part of Guardians. Like it wasn't just Star-Lord or like Star-Lord and Gamora go out and then Rocket and Groot or whatever left behind, you don't see them anymore, right? It was like every one of them got a ton of screen time through this whole movie.
Yeah, and it did kind of feel like, I guess maybe to that point, I agree with you. I feel like it probably did strike a good balance of sort of setting up like Chris Pratt as the lead, but like everyone else was still important, and it was it was more about the team, but also like Chris Pratt kind of at the helm of the team, but it wasn't really his movie. It was kind of everyone everyone's.
Exactly. Well, now we've landed on Xandar. All of them have come to hunt each other, it seems like. So we're getting a very quick build up to them finding each other.
Right.
Which takes us to John's favorite part, which is them getting captured by Nova Corps and then reading out their descriptions.
Which I also want to say, like, in this thing too, we get a classic. You got some air horns ready there, Dan?
Oh, yeah, of course. Here we go.
Oh, it's Christian's Marvel movie grievance corner. A cardinal sin
here
of
we
Marvel
go.
movies appears right around this thing where Peter Quill shows up to give a guy an orb, the orb that he'd found at the beginning of the movie, but then he comes outside and Gamora's there, and he doesn't know Gamora yet, and she's like talking to him, and he doesn't know that she wants the orb, and then she gets the orb, and then he just kind of like easily subdues her and gets it back, which then sort of like begs the question, like, what, like, how strong is Gamora actually? Like, she has like another thing in this movie where it's like her power levels are way the fuck all over the goddamn place the entire time, because she's like a living weapon, like captured by Thanos as a child and experimented upon to become like the greatest assassin in the entire universe, sent as his hand to carry out his will. But then it's like she gets like her feet like wrapped up by Star-Lord because he like shoots like a little gun at her, and it's like with like a bola attached to it, and she's like, oh no, I'm incapacitated. And it's like, okay, well, is she like the greatest assassin on the planet? Is she like the living weapon, or is she like an oafish goon number 3 who just gets like easily subdued by like weird Star-Lord gadgets? Like which is it?
Here's what I would throw into that is that one, he's human. Well, we find out later, maybe only half human, but the expectation there is very minimal of what kind of fight Quill is going to put back on Gamora, right? Sure. It's extremely minimal. She doesn't see him as an equal, and so probably doesn't treat him as such when going after the orb. And so when he does get her with that, whatever, the fucking electricity,
the bola gun,
yep. She immediately takes it off. It's not like she's incapacitated for 5 minutes and he gets up to her and he like handcuffs her and all this other shit. It's like she immediately gets out of it, right? And then it becomes kind of a 1v1v1v1v1, right? It's like all 4 of them are them fighting after the orb. So it's
2v1v1.
Yeah.
Well, I guess so. But Groot's
I mean, Rocket
not really...
and Groot are like boys, dude. They're not, you know.
Yeah. Except Groot is not always super helpful, you know, as he's drinking from the fountain or getting distracted. But yes, that is fair. So again, it's not like it's just Gamora going up against this lame-o Star-Lord, but also Star-Lord clearly has been with the Ravagers for 26 years, learning how to fight and all this other stuff.
But
so
also,
do I
like,
think it was unrealistic?
Wouldn't she know
No.
that? And maybe, okay, let's say hypothetically she doesn't know that. It's still
Sure.
like, I'm kind of like, you know, and like this isn't the only instance of this in the movie. It's like Gamora is like the like badass to end all badasses, total like, you know, insane, like close quarters combat master, tough as nails, like whatever, until she like someone needs to like sweep her legs and trip her, and then they just can't. Like it just happens a lot. Like
to add on to that, and I hate that this is like part of the way that I critique characters now because of you, but like
here we go.
The first time that Gamora was shown on screen, I don't know if it was just like I haven't seen this movie in a while, or I haven't seen Gamora in a movie in a while. Like, I remember her not being so goddamn skinny, and so like the entire time I was like, I get that she's an alien, but she's so tiny. Like, I don't believe that she could take any of these dudes on.
Yeah,
by
but right
herself.
though, dude. Like, I mean, legit, it's dude. Proportionally, Marvel has some issues with like how they fucking handle some of these fight sequences.
Yeah, I don't know. I had a hard time believing that she could fight any of these people off, even if she was an alien. So maybe that's just me being tainted by Christian, but
Yeah.
It is.
Well, because the thing is, if they're not going to be like big, you at least got to make them agile. But then when they like fail their agility checks throughout the entire movie, it's just like how
they're missing those QTEs.
Yeah, they're missing the QTEs the entire time, and it's like, okay, well, how the fuck is this person getting anything done? Exactly. It's just when it's convenient for them to win, they win, and when it's not convenient, they don't. You know.
Yep. Well, anyway, so now they're in a high security prison called the Kiln. This is where we find out about Gamora's agreement to sell the orb to a third party. We also find out that Groot can only say, "I am Groot," and that the only person that seems to be able to understand him at this time is Rocket Raccoon. And so when he's saying, "I am Groot," he is actually saying other things, but nobody can understand him except for Rocket Raccoon, which seems like a whole Stewie Griffin on Family Guy kind of deal.
Yeah.
You know, that only Brian can understand him.
Yeah, I've actually never seen an episode of Family
what?
Guy. My taste is a
Yes,
little
you
bit
have.
more refined than that.
No, you have. You have, absolutely.
I think everyone can understand Brian, no?
No,
No,
but
can
yeah,
understand
okay, yeah,
Stewie.
but not everyone can understand Stewie.
Oh, got you.
Brian's
Yeah.
the only one that can understand Stewie,
that's-
which I have gathered from listening to Dan ramble at length about his favorite
Okay,
show,
here we
Family
go.
Guy, a show
Yeah,
I've
he
never
loves
actually
Family
seen.
Guy.
Well, that's all untrue. So it's not even part of the MCU, so why would I watch it?
Yeah,
honestly?
fair. Dude.
That's true.
We do get a shirtless Chris Pratt.
Yeah,
and
dude.
He is
he's
jacked.
buff.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Fat man
Um,
got buff.
Yeah, what's interesting is that this movie was filmed in the middle of the Parks and Recreation run, right? Obviously, he was also part of Parks and Recreation
What's
throughout
that?
its run. It's a TV show, actually, made by Mike Schur and Greg Daniels, who created The Office.
Never heard of
the
it.
US version. Okay, great. And so what happened was he did a lot of this. In fact, I think all of this filming in between seasons of Parks and Rec. And then the season after this movie was filmed, Chris Pratt came back to that show and was skinny and jacked. And they explained it away by saying that he didn't drink beer all summer.
I know, yeah, that was actually like a really funny scene in Parks and Rec because they're like he comes back and like one of the dudes is like, "Oh my god, you're like ripped now," and he's like, "Yeah, I know, I stopped drinking beer," and they're like, "How much beer were you drinking?" And he's like, "I know, right?" Yeah, no,
And that was the only nod to that in the whole show.
Yep.
So that was really, I enjoyed that a lot. That was a nice little call to the Guardians of the Galaxy movie filming.
Right.
Now, Gamora, she's not so liked in this prison. Turns out everyone knows that Gamora is the daughter of Thanos, and nobody seems to be happy about it.
it's true. And if you thought that you could get a Marvel movie without a damsel in distress being manhandled and having her face inappropriately touched by a large, imposing man, you'd be wrong, because we also get one of those scenes in this movie, too, where Gamora is grabbed by the throat by Drax as he caresses her face sexually with his thumb. And I just felt like throwing that out there. It seems like Marvel kind of has a hard-on for scenes like this.
Wait, I want to go back though because there's a really big kind of I don't know if it's a plot hole, but it's like when they're being brought into the prison, Gamora's like explaining to them that like, no, I just wanted to steal the orb because I was going to betray Ronan.
Right.
And it's like, why the hell would you ever give up that information to anybody, right? Because if you're going to betray someone who's super powerful, then like that seems like something you would keep a secret, but you were just going to tell to like these dudes you just met and that you were trying to like take shit from.
Right. And I think for me, it was like, because I had a similar reaction. I'm like, why would you say that? And then why would everybody just automatically take that on face value? It kind of goes back to what
that
I was
too.
saying about like, there's like some weird pacing things in this movie that kind of like whiplashed me a little bit while I was watching it. And this is like one of them where it's like, she's like, oh, actually, hey, I know we just met, but just so you know, the reason like you think I wanted it to bring it to like your enemy, but actually I wanted it because I'm betraying my enemy. And they're like, oh, well, why didn't you say so sooner? Let's go on adventures together. You know, it's like, it was just this, it was fast. It was this really fast thing that happened.
I think what adds to it, though, is that people know who Gamora is across the galaxy, and the fact that she didn't just kill them was also an extra indicator that she might actually be telling the truth. It doesn't seem like before this moment that she was one to take prisoners often, right?
I don't know. All those dudes are in prison. They all know
Yeah,
better.
for sure. Yeah, I mean,
She didn't kill them.
right. Well, and also I would say that, I mean, because she has such a reputation, I feel like it would actually do the opposite. It's like everybody knows who she is. No one seems to like her or trust her. So, like, wouldn't that just add to the amount of distrust? Like, she's not some random nobody. She's like a, she's like a dude that kills people in the name of Thanos, and she's just like, oh, but actually I'm okay, but by the way, I'm actually betraying Thanos this time. And they're like, oh, okay, that makes complete sense. Like, that's fine. Like it's weird.
We also get Groot. I think Groot in this movie is probably the most brutal character when it comes to taking out the enemies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In this moment, he sticks 2 of his fingers inside this guy's nose and lifts him up into the air to make it clear that no one should be touching Star-Lord.
Dude, I thought he was gonna like gore the dude's brains out, and his brain fluids were gonna eke out of his ear holes and his eyes, but then like nothing happened. I was kind of disappointed.
Well, I think if James Gunn were given actual free reign to make a rated
You're
R
right.
Guardians,
He would have
like,
popped that dude.
He would have
I
done
know.
it.
Yeah. I mean, we watched Peacemaker. There's a lot of
Yeah.
shit
Yeah.
crawling into people's heads and their brains exploding. So,
Yeah.
with creative freedom, he likes that stuff.
Sure.
But that's not the only thing he likes. Anyway, back to you, Dan.
Yes, sure. We also get our first look at Drax, rounding out the Guardians of the Galaxy, who is played by Dave Bautista.
Yeah.
He's a giant guy, and he got all of that makeup put on him every single day. Like,
Yeah,
this
it took
wasn't.
like 6 hours of makeup every day, right?
Well,
Or something
dude,
like that?
Yeah.
And something I'll say too, as like a positive to this movie, and I actually mean this like a huge positive. This gets like a ton of points from me. Is like the amount of practical effects that they have
Yeah.
in this movie. Like, it's so fucking good. I wish that like more. I wish they would like lean into that side of things more in Marvel, because it's like, the first Iron Man, we obviously got like, practical effects with the suit, and then they like sort of like have been getting further and further and further away from that in favor of like more CGI stuff. This one, it was like the amount of just like, even like the villain, like Ronin, like in his makeup and shit, like it was cool, like it looked good. Like, I wish that there was more of that. Like, I enjoyed that visually, and I thought that Drax, the entire movie, like it's just cool. It's cool to look at. Every scene he's in, it's like it looks really good. And they easily could have just also had him be a guy in a green suit, and it would have made this movie worse, but they chose not to, and that was a great decision.
For sure. I agree. Yeah, the makeup on Ronan was like really, you could see how it went on his face. There were like bumps, and
Totally.
like it wasn't
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
It looked really
It
nice.
was cool, yeah, for sure. And Drax was similar, and I actually really like the character of Drax. Like, he's like he kind of like reminds me of like a really, really buff dude with Asperger's, and that's kind of like the character of Drax.
Yeah, he says, "Why would I put my finger on his throat?"
Yeah, it's fun. It's like no metaphors, very literal. Can't like comprehends the world in a very sort of logical, mathematical way. And I think that because I feel like Groot is almost sort of supposed to be and I don't even know. I was gonna say Groot's almost like supposed to be like the comedy relief character, but I feel like in their own way they're all sort of comedy relief characters.
Yeah.
But I guess the thing with Drax is that he's like the anti-comedic relief character, in the sense that like he
doesn't get jokes.
he doesn't possess the capacity to be goofy, so he's just the forever straight man to the wacky shit everyone else is saying and doing. And because of that, he kind of ends up being the funniest one, in my opinion, because like him playing off of everybody else's absurdity in this very sort of like logical, cold kind of way just like worked really well.
Because when everyone's funny,
Right, then so is
Nobody's.
Drax, because no one actually is. Yeah, no, and I think that like a lot of the characters too had lines at various points I kind of cringed at a little bit, especially Gamora for whatever it's worth. I'm like, I don't know, like fucking like, and I don't know if it was just like the lady delivering the lines or whatever, but I'm just like a lot of Gamora shit fell really flat for me. But I would say like Drax like fucking hit it every single time he needed to hit it in the movie. Drax was there just fucking hitting it. I appreciated it. I liked Drax.
Yeah.
I think that's a good assessment of like the way the comedy works in this movie, and the reason I think this movie stands out apart from like all the other MC movies that also trying to be like kind of goofy-ish, aside from like all of the alien visual effects and stuff like that, is that this works kind of in the way that like a normal sitcom would work, is that like everybody has their own like very strong personalities, and the humor comes from like their personalities bouncing off of each other.
Right.
Versus like if we take a situation between like Tony Stark and Steve Rogers and Bruce Banner, they all kind of like make jokes in the same way because they're all kind of like sarcastic and like witty against each other. So it's like one dude bouncing lines off of himself, versus this one, each person has their own like unique identities, and the jokes are different between like each character.
Totally. And I
think
feel
that works.
Yeah, and I feel like a little bit like Dan probably feels all the time when I think about like Drax, because I'm kind of like, I want to see a scene, like actually unironically, like I want to see a scene of like Drax and Captain America to like see how that, I want to see a scene of like Drax and like Iron Man. Like I'm kind of like Drax is maybe the first character that's been introduced where I'm sort of like because you put like whatever Captain America and Iron Man and they're talking to each other. I don't really give a fuck. Like, I'm not like sitting around wondering what that would look like. It's like, it's cool when it happens. But like Drax, I'm like, you put him up against any character in the MCU we've seen so far, and I'm legitimately interested to see how they would like write that scene.
What if I told you
Okay.
that one day Drax and Iron Man will have a conversation?
You know what? I'd be looking forward to that. I'm interested to see
Well,
how that goes.
Oh, well, there we go.
I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see if that's the one thing that'll keep you going through this entire podcast.
Yeah, this
that.
was going to be my last episode, but hearing that, I think I got to keep it.
Yeah.
I think I got to keep it 100.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're gonna jump past here the Thanos and Ronan conversation, but obviously this is the first time we get a real conversation from Thanos to anyone, and Ronan's relationship with Thanos is a bit at risk here because he has lost the orb to Quill and Gamora, and even though Thanos now sends Nebula after them with Ronan, Thanos still likes to throw in the jab that Gamora's his favorite daughter, just to
Dude,
make
I
sure
was
that
like,
Nebula is
Nebula's
clear
right
about that.
there, dude. Come on.
I know. Yeah. And look, the whole like Nebula, Gamora, Thanos relationship stuff is actually more spelled out in non-Guardians movies than it is in Guardians movies, and that's where I'll leave that. Is like we're gonna dive much further into this relationship in the future,
right? But
they decided not to do that in this movie, it seems. Well, the Guardians are planning their escape, but Groot doesn't know what timing is and decides just to pull the battery at that moment, which sets off this giant chain of events and a giant fight where Drax has now kind of joined the rest of these guys in trying to escape the prison, which leads to just again a huge fight, guns thrown everywhere. I really like this because I think what's really interesting about this movie across all of it is how they choreograph such either big fights in this like kind of big area of the prison, and also later on when we get to like the larger Star Fleet battle on top of Xandar, and like there's just hundreds and hundreds of ships everywhere, and how you like make all of that happen when 90% of it is CGI. Like, how do you make all of that happen and seem cohesive and like make a storyline go through it? It was kind of really interesting to watch all of that go through. But the artificial gravity gets turned off, and I really like this scene. I thought it was cool to see all of them work together for the first time, and I like how they took the drones and the watchtower and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I thought it was neat. There was like one. Can I get a little? Can I go a little
Wait.
air horn? Oh. Okay.
I,
Wait,
I
no.
wanna, I wanna guess what it is. I wanna
Okay.
guess what it is.
Okay. Wait. Hold on.
Okay.
Cue up the air horn. Air horn, really quick.
Air horn? Yeah.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to John's. Can he guess what it is? Corner.
Can I do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here we go.
So there's a part where they're in the main console area,
Mhm.
and they're about to like enact the final getaway sequence, and Rocket's like typing away programming shit, and the guards come over with their rocket launchers, and they're like, okay, group 1, fire.
I know it.
It's like 1.
Yeah.
Okay, the glass starts breaking. Group 2, fire. Okay, group 2 fires. The glass starts breaking more. Group 3, fire. And they're like, guys, we don't have enough time. And Rocket's like, yeah, I'm doing it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And then he's like, all right, all guards, all groups, fire
everyone.
on my mark. 3, 2, 1, and then they're able to get away. And it's like you didn't count down 3, 2, 1 for the other guys.
Yeah, if you have
How come
if you have
now-
everyone there with rocket launchers, just like shoot the fucking rock. That actually wasn't what I was going to say, but you know what? That's a very fair gripe with that, and that is a very common Marvel movie trope, as we have observed. What I was going to say. It's a much smaller nitpick. This is a little tiny piece of minutia that I didn't like. But when they're walking into the console room, there's this like shot where it's like panning up like to the door, and they're all like posing like out in front of the door
Hell yeah.
as it's going up, and then the door opens and they're all like striking weird poses, and then they
Hell
walk
yeah.
into the room afterwards, and it was just like that's like
That was for me.
that's just for
Yeah,
Dan.
that was
Like,
for you.
Yeah,
it's like,
that
it's
was
like-
for me.
Because even like, you know, if you have like a cool scene, like there's a scene later of them like walking down a hallway, you know, and it's that very like Ocean's 11 style, you know, and I'm like, but even that you can kind of like explain in the plot, like maybe these guys, you know, they're just cool and they're just walking towards a thing, and it's like a little display of all their personalities or whatever. But like, it's like the logistics of that would be they would have to go up to the door, and then they all have to like get perfectly in their positions, and then they have to like strike a pose, and then they have to hold the pose like while the doors open, and it's just like not a thing that is gonna happen in any like real realm of anything. It's this like complete pure fantastical exposition shot that doesn't make any sense and had no reason to be there.
You're right. That is a giant nitpick. That's unnecessary.
Huge
So,
unnecessary. Hey man,
yeah.
I told you off the rip, but I noticed it. It stood out to me.
I mean, I think what they were doing was they thought that a photographer might be on the other side,
Right.
so they were like getting ready for the photo.
Yeah. I mean, it just kind of reminds me of like if you ever watch like, you know, a horror movie, like, you know, Michael Myers is like chasing someone or whatever. But then when you actually like think about like the movement of the character and how it would make sense, it's like you'd have to have this dude like standing still, and then when someone runs, he'd have to like book it out the back door and run all the way through the yard and then hop a fence and then like stand still and like wait for them to get out of the house, and then they'd see him again, and then he would have to like sprint down the street and like hop another fence and like jump through a window to get into this other hat. Like, and when you start like breaking, like why the fuck would the character move like that? Suddenly the scenes make way less sense. This is just one of those examples where it's like it was just like the movement of the characters doesn't make sense here to me. I just noticed it. Anyway.
But that was for me.
Yeah,
it was for
it
me.
was for Dan.
So
So-
I enjoyed it personally. I then screenshot it and made it my phone background. So you
Hell
know,
yeah.
I think they did the right thing there for me. So they're able to use the watchtower and the drones, and they get out. But
Oh,
before they can
happen?
leave, that Walkman's not gonna stay behind, and so Quill's got to go for that Walkman
course.
because there's also a second cassette tape. By the way, I don't know if you guys knew this. At the end, there's a second one, so we can't lose the Walkman now. It's integral to the story. So he goes back for that and then flies back to the ship using his jet boots. and space helmet. And I think part
It's
of this is
jet
obviously to set
boots
up.
and space helmet.
Yeah, dude, space helmet. You don't have one of those? Come on.
Yeah.
I did also think it was kind of interesting that the helmet was using seemingly nanotechnology, which
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think
think had been like
seemed
fully
like it.
introduced yet in the MCU.
No, I
So-
think Iron Man gets it after
He doesn't get it till
like Infinity War.
yeah, Infinity War.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's clear that they use it in Black Panther. For his suit. The suit is made from nanoparticles. Yeah.
Oh.
It's stored in his necklace.
Right.
Anyways, we'll
Yeah,
get to
yeah,
that at some point. And so they're all on the ship. Gamora makes a comment about how the ship is really dirty. And then Quill makes a statement that he said, if he had a black light, his ship would look like a Jackson Pollock painting.
It's
Hey,
okay.
I'm reading about Jackson Pollock.
Right. So, like, again, another example of this thing where it's like, yeah, okay, I get it, dude. It's like you fall, it's and then also like it's like a Jackson Pollock reference was weird to me too because I'm like none of these people.
None of these people know who
Like,
Jackson Pollock.
yeah, it's like these are like alien, and then Rocket Raccoon is just like, ha ha ha, yeah, totally, and it's just like what the fuck, like you wouldn't know, like it's just a weird thing to say.
And on top of that, after Gamora says your ship is filthy, she climbs up the ladder, and it's like an upshot of Gamora's ass
Yes.
as she exits the scene.
Yeah, of
So,
course.
of course.
Yeah, after she had been manhandled by Drax,
Yeah.
which we brushed over again, but that's okay. I'm just saying they love to throw those weird ass fucking scenes in these movies.
Yep.
And they do. It's like every single Marvel movie. It's like you have to have like a woman being like violently held down by a man as he sexually strokes her head somehow. It's like it's just kind of, and then we let our children watch these.
Yes, we do. Yondu shows up at the broker, and we see the first use of his arrow, which is a pretty cool weapon. I really like how this weapon works, and I thought it was. I don't know. I've never, again, read the comics for Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm assuming this is all like reference stuff from the comics in regards to like the arrow and how it's controlled and all that, but I really liked it. It was super creative in how they did it, and we see more of this in future stuff too.
Yeah, I couldn't, and still, like, I can't tell if I think it's cool or if I think it's really cheesy. Like, it's like I'm actually split, and I think what it is for me is that like I think the weapon itself is cool, but the whistling is cheesy. I think that was the thing that like. Because there's like a scene later where it's like just ripping through everyone, like pew 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 pew, like, and I'm like, that shit was tight. But I think that like the like the entire time,
yeah.
it was kind of like
I think
this.
there's talent to it.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just like,
Well-
it was a little cheesy to me.
Would it make it any better to know that the only way he can do it like that is because that thing that's on his head that looks like a mohawk is actually an implant that makes the arrow work?
Well, I mean, that doesn't really change. Does he have to like?
No,
does he?
it does.
Does he have?
He has to whistle.
He has to whistle. That's like a part. That's a
Yeah.
part of the implant. That's like a lame implant, dude.
I mean, he could probably like speak it instead,
Yeah.
but it would just lead to him going, all right, Arrow, now go here. All right, Arrow, now do this. Instead, he's like vocalizing while thinking what he wants it to do, right?
That would
The
actually. That's like a funny idea for a character where it's like where
You
it's
gotta
like.
talk to Siri for your powers to activate.
Yeah, he gets like a super weapon, but it's so strong that he's just like bored all the he's like, all right, yeah, fucking okay,
Dude, that's
go,
just-
Arrow. It's like, do, 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 do,
That's
do,
just
do, do.
one punch man.
Yeah, it's like he's the One Punch Man of the MCU, yeah, dude.
Yeah, well, we find out that the Collector is back, which was, I think, revealed first time at the end credits or mid credits of Thor, where they handed off one of the other
Right.
Infinity
Yeah, Dark
Stones.
World, I believe.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and so the Guardians now arrive at Nowhere, which is a mining colony, and this
It was fucking
is
cool.
one of those
By the way,
big-
I want to
yeah.
say, like, legit,
Yeah.
like the severed head. They're like, yo, we had to
yeah.
like mine like the membrane and the spinal fluid. It's like really cool set piece. They fly inside the decapitated head. There's like big cities everywhere. Again, just like cool. It's a lot of cool imaginative stuff in this, which is a big credit I give to this movie. Like visually, this movie did a lot more for me than any other Marvel movie has.
Also, can I clarify, Dan? Do you know, if because she says it's a severed head of a celestial being, does she actually mean a celestial, as we know them in the MCU?
That's what I gathered from it. I didn't look it up directly, but it does match to the scale of what we'll see in the
Yeah.
Eternals.
Okay, that's pretty fucking
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, so I think this was kind of the first nod towards the Celestials, which will be addressed in a future Phase 4 movie. Yeah, Phase 4, which is the Eternals.
Yeah, they land in Nowhere, and they're kind of getting the lay of the land, and it's told that Nowhere is a lawless city, and you got to watch out because everybody's out to get you here. And some kids run by them, and then Peter Quinn's like, "Hey, watch your pockets, because there are pickpockets afoot." And then we just get this one weird scene, like right after that, where it's like all these kids are trying to like rifle through the pockets, and then one of the kids is like looking at Groot, and Groot like puts his hand out, and like a flower grows out of his hand. And to John's point, like the shittiest child actor I've ever seen in my entire life stands there with this awkward plastered smile on her face, and then reaches out and grabs the flower from Groot, and like doesn't change her facial expression at any point, and then just kind of like looks up at him, and then the scene's done. And like, what the fuck? Like, what was that, Dan? Why you tell me? Why did that need to like? How did that make the final cut of the movie? I didn't really get that.
Yeah, that was a terrible child actor. I can't even. I can't. I get the idea. The idea is to show that Groot is more than just growing twigs.
Right.
Right? Like he can essentially grow kind of wild, like this plant life.
Sure.
Which includes like flowers and later on like this kind of bright light.
It's like
pollen.
bioluminescent, like spores everywhere.
Yeah. So like I got the idea, but the I don't know what the child actor was doing because it was like deadpan.
That was-
It
yeah,
like
that was-
no
that was-
movement.
That was weird.
Well,
Like, yeah.
No, what happened to like the age of like the Haley Joel Osments or the Dakota Fannings or the Lindsay Lohans, dude?
What happened to them is they all grew up to be drug addicts and like
Yeah,
but they made art, dude. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, dude.
sure.
Yeah, they were all fucking hanging out at Neverland Ranch. You know what I mean? And then they grew up with like really serious issues, and now parents are like, maybe we don't want our talented kids in Hollywood,
we learn
especially
a lot
not
more
in a movie
about kind
directed by James Gunn. Anyway, back to you, Dan.
Yeah, thanks. We learn a bit more about all the characters at this point, kind of more about Gamora and the fact that Thanos had killed her parents. We hear Rocket really kind of open up for the first time about not necessarily wanting to be what looks like a raccoon
Right.
and being experimented on. We also hear about the legend of Footloose and the people who don't dance with the hero Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, the way that kind of Quill hears or has heard of Earth stories without actually living on Earth. So it's kind of interesting how he takes like Earth things, like talking about outlaws like John Stamos and Billy the Kid.
Well, I don't think that's him like not knowing. I think that's him like making Earth stuff seem cooler than it actually is on purpose.
You think so?
Yeah, I think
don't
he's
know,
just like
'cause-
kind of lying his way into people's pants.
Yeah, that was
no?
that was my take on it too, for whatever it's worth. Like he was like, oh yeah, like, he's trying to like mystify his own origin story because he like wants to fuck Gamora. That was my read.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way I took it was that he left Earth when he was a little kid and like maybe didn't necessarily grow up with all the concepts of like actors in movies and like how those stories are not based on real things, right? Like, I don't know. That's kind of the way that I took it, but I could see it going either way there.
Yeah.
So I'll take most of the win, but I'll give you some of it there.
Go, thank. That's very
Thanks.
generous of
I
you.
appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, you know, if there's one thing I am, it's vibrant
And generous.
Genius.
and generous and a genius. And finally, we get to see the collector again, who wants to buy Groot at the time of his death. Obviously,
Right.
He'll go ahead and buy his body because he is a collector that collects many things.
Hey, I would have taken up the deal.
Yeah.
You want
It
the
depends
deal?
on how
You
much
want
he
my
was
body?
offering.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
gonna be dead.
Yeah, I kind of like wish we had gotten to explore the collector a little bit more, because I just thought it was like it's like a cool character with like all these like fun curios around this room, and it's like, but you know, it's pretty, and he was like hyped up at the end of Thor: Dark World, like, but the entire thing was pretty short lived, you know, like because you know the Infinity Stone pops up. His like slave servant lady like is like, I no longer will live under the reign of your tyranny, collector, and then she grabs it and cannot handle the power and essentially becomes a thermonuclear detonator around this time. Your boy Quill says the line, there's a little pee coming out of me right now, which is prophetic for some of the tweets that James Gunn will be canceled for later. But anyway, just keep that in your back pocket.
Yeah, also the part where he pulls the orb out of his pocket and then drops it on the floor and picks it back up. That was not scripted. That was an improvised Chris Pratt fail that they left in the movie.
Yeah.
Which I knew you were going to be really excited about that.
Yeah,
so
I mean, fuck it.
just thought
Yeah, it's a good scene.
Yeah, and so a collector kind of he opens the orb, but he also talks about the Infinity Stones again. We also see the Tesseract, and we see, I think it was Groot maybe, or I don't remember who it was, who like waves their hand over the Tesseract to kind of reveal that inside of it is one of the Infinity Stones. And I don't know if you really caught that.
I didn't.
Or not in that moment, but yeah, it's kind of showing that these Infinity Stones, some of them are encased in other things because they can't necessarily directly be held on to.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because
Right, and so-
as we come to find in this movie, if you attempt to touch one, you blow up if you are not worthy of wielding the power.
Yeah, and this is a pretty consistent theme that they keep across the Infinity Stones throughout the movies, is that you're generally never going to see just the stone by itself. It'll be in some type of contraption that holds the stone in place
Some
until it's...
Horcrux.
Yeah,
For
for
all my
Horcrux,
Harry
yeah.
Potter fans out there.
Yeah, all right. I want to watch Harry Potter again. Anyways, so...
New podcast, dude?
New podcast.
Yeah,
Harry
please.
shit?
I don't think
Wand
that's what we
shit.
could name
I
it.
think that's the name.
Yeah. During all this and while the explosion happened, Drax is calling Ronan into place. Yondu also shows up in this moment, and we have a kind of first intersection of all of these people being in the same place at one time, so that Drax can get his moment to take down Ronan, which doesn't go so well.
Right.
I'm the explosion. This is where I will say this was a giant explosion, and the fact that Gamora and Star-Lord were unscathed in the
fine.
tiny pit
Yeah.
that's 4 feet away is something that was popping out in my brain because of you, Christian.
It's a
Thank you so much for that.
classic, because it's a classic happy Iron Man 3 style explosion where it's like you're at the epicenter, everything else is like reduced to ash around you, other than like the two important main characters who just survive it miraculously, and no one really dwells on it, and we just kind of keep moving.
Well, I mean, we find out later that Peter Quill is not full human, so maybe because
yeah.
of the other half,
Right.
he was able to shield himself and Gamora, and that's how they live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the question is, what is the other half?
Yeah. Oh,
That's the
yeah.
question.
Wow, that is the question. That's a pretty interesting question that I hope will get answered someday.
Oh, we will get the answer someday. Okay, so this is where it picks up on a kind of long action sequence of ships flying and bumper ships. They're playing bumper ships because the ships that Rocket and Quill are flying don't have guns on them, so they're playing bumper ships with all the other cars that are out there, or ships that are there. I did like one part of this where I think it was maybe Quill who like flew his ship inside of one of the other ones and then like took over the controls and started shooting the other ships that were coming towards it.
Yeah.
I thought that was just
That's
like
cool.
an interesting thing to add to this kind of scene that would be normally just kind of a chase sequence, right?
No, and I agree. And I mean, it's like this whole sort of thing. It's like, it sort of shows like the enormity of the like battle that's happening. And I like that the Marvel movies have been trending more towards that. Like things feel big, like this very big scene. Like, they're sort of like going through this like sprawling city with explosions and more ships coming. And it all feels like, there's gravity towards the situation, a real actual sense of impending danger. Like, how are they going to get out of it? And as we come to find, they get out of it by exiting the ship, but not before Gamora ends up being blown up and thrown into the cold, vast, unforgiving darkness of space.
Yeah, it's a very sad moment. You know what? Quill's not going to let this stand. So he goes out to save her, puts the helmet on him, but first calls Yondu.
I thought that was another example of that, like, character arc whiplash, where it's like, Quill, like, I'm like, you like just met this motherfucker, and it's like it's this thing where it's like, I guess they're just trying to establish that Quill's like such a great guy, he's just such a good dude, he's not gonna leave anyone behind. But it was still just kind of like, it felt sort of weird to me. Like, it's like you just met this fucking person, like, you and now you're like willing to die for the sake of, like, resuscitating her, and in fact, sort of put your entire party at peril because you're, calling into the people who are trying to like claim a bounty on the thing that you have or whatever. It just felt like it all happened kind of quickly.
Yeah, but I mean, that's also why he wasn't with the Ravagers anymore. He clearly was kind of taking his own path. He wasn't as kind of brutal as the Ravagers were, and we see that clearly through the film. They also had a moment right before this. They're talking about their parents being dead and like not part of their lives. And
right.
So I think there was a lot of good buildup in this moment to kind of justify it. But he also knew that if he told Yondu where he was, that he would be there within minutes to be able to take in Quill and where he was.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Because they were already close to each other anyways. So it was a quick trip for Yondu to come and get them out of space like that. And also we know again that he's not full mortal, which is why he
do know that now,
withstand that. Yeah. Because there are some moments here you're like, wait a minute, if he's human, he'd probably be dead by now.
Yeah, he would just
and
pop.
then, yeah. So
he would take the mask off and it would just go, and then that would be it. Yeah.
Exactly. This is where Ronan now is going to go back on his deal with Thanos, because he says, why should I give the stone to you when I can just use it myself? And then he adds it to his staff, and now we've got another staff.
And a staff that suffers similar problems, I might add. It's staffs in this game, dude.
So.
Game in this Game of Thrones movie. Anyway, back to
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, Yondu's about to kill Quill.
Volume 2.
Also, alternate
Kill
title
Quill,
to this movie.
Volume
Kill
2.
Quill. Yeah. Yeah. And then he's able to convince Yondu that they somehow have another plan that's going to get them a ton of money, so they shouldn't kill Quill. Volume 2. And then Rocket, Groot, and Drax show up, and they're like, all right, you've got 5 seconds or else we're gonna blow up your ship.
Yeah.
I thought that was
pretty good.
that was a nice moment there. And this is where we finally get like the Guardians moment, right? This is like every one of them sitting around in a circle, figuring out what they're going to do and how they're going to work together as a team. Quill has 12% of a plan, which Groot states is better than an 11% of a plan. So
not
This is
wrong.
where, yeah, it's true. And Chris Pratt gets his monologue moment. Now, it's not a Captain America monologue, but it was pretty good. I liked seeing them together in this moment. Were they really? I felt like this moment felt good enough to justify them coming together as a team.
Yeah. I would also say that it's like another kind of thing for me where this felt like the pace moved along really, really fast, like during this moment, because he's essentially sort of like, okay, we need to okay, I lost the stone and that's not good, but if we don't do something, then Ronan's gonna do nefarious deeds with the stone, so we need to do something about that. And everyone's like, fuck that. That's insane. You're crazy. You've gone too far this time, Quill. And then Rocket Raccoon is like, you're basically asking us to die. And he's like, yeah, I guess I am. And then they're like, okay, cool. Well, I guess when you put it like that, my position is flipped and I'm good with this now. Let's continue. And it was just like, again, fast, like really fast. Like, I feel like there wasn't a ton of build up to them just all completely changing their minds and just like going forward with what they assume to be a suicide mission.
Well, they also didn't have a ton of choices at that moment either.
I mean, they didn't, but up until that point, I mean, like Rocket's whole like prime directive is like saving himself, and like he's like, let's get to the furthest side of the galaxy that we can, try and live out our natural, whatever, and then he's like, okay, well, you need to die for this mission, Rocket. And Rocket's like, well, I guess I don't have that much longer anyway, so sure. It was just sort of like the opposite of what Rocket had been doing the entire time. And then it's like still kind of the opposite of what Rocket does afterwards. Like it was just this weird deviation from what his character is. But it was very convenient. It was he had a change of heart conveniently right at the moment a change of heart needed to occur so that the plot could continue moving forward.
Well, no, I think that he had a change of heart, like when he, Groot and Drax decided to go back for them in the first place. Like I feel like that was his turning point, and then everything after was just like him on that path.
Sure, on Team Suicide Mission.
On Team Suicide Squad.
Yeah, hell yeah.
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 The original, the inspiration.
Yeah, the original. Well, this is it. This is the big climax fight of the movie.
Hell yeah.
They are all heading towards Xandar. They are there. The Ravagers arrive. Ronan arrives. Nova Corps is evacuating the city. And now the Nova ships are heading into their what do you call it? They're not outer space, but they're
Inner space.
They're in the atmosphere.
Yeah, there you go. They're heading into the atmosphere. And this is where this kind of big shot, one of kind of the planet, Nova Planet, but also seeing the scale of all the ships that come out of there, all the ships that come out of Ronan's ship, plus all the Ravagers. Like, this is where I don't normally think much about like the CGI or like how it's all done. I'm more just kind of taking in the story. But in this moment, I was just like, I don't know how you can, because I've seen credits of these movies where it's, hundreds of people working sometimes on these CGI moments. And it's like, how do you choreograph something like this? Like, how much time and effort does it take to know where each ship is going, how it all interplays, like where they are each moment in time compared to where they are like in the scene before? It was really, really kind of a big, cool scene where that really hit me. And I think it's because of doing this podcast with both of you who don't enjoy the magic of these movies,
sure,
and more so are looking for the technical details of the movies. No, I know. I'm joking. Yeah. But anyways,
I don't enjoy the magic of these movies. I feel like you nailed me spot on. I actually aggressively dislike the magic of these movies. I see them trying to create magic, and it makes me angry.
Yep. So I really liked seeing how big at scale this whole fight was, and it felt more realistic, I think, than maybe other things in the past. But like, it just, yeah, it was a really big,
Yeah.
cool scene.
And I actually agree with that. Like, I mean, legit, like, I thought this like whole sort of climactic finale, I think, was handled pretty well. We've seen it handled worse in other Marvel movies. Like, this was a pretty solid act 3. I will say, like, something that kind of, you know, and again, my emerging theme of like fast moving like plot things, like, you know, like Ronan like gets the Infinity Stone, but like, you know, the Guardians of the Galaxy up till that point, it's like they just became aware that Infinity Stones even exist, right? Like before they had no prior knowledge of this, and now, you know, this dude has it. And it's kind of like odd to me that they all just sort of hop into like like, it's like, okay, like Ronan has the Infinity Stone and it's bad, but it's like they just like kind of know that he can wield it somehow, and they like know that it's going to like, you know, cause doom when he does, and they like, you know, sort of just like know that like he's going to be like on this ship with this thing, and they know that like they need to keep him in the sky because if he actually makes it to the ground, then the real bad shit's going to happen. Like there was just like kind of a lot of like logic leaps there for me when the only experience they had with the Infinity Stone was someone touching it and dying, you know, like it was just this sort of like they suddenly kind of had all this esoteric Infinity Stone knowledge. And it's like, and then this like this final scene, their whole thing is that like he can't make ground fall. And they're like, because if he does, then everything gets like fucked up. But it's like,
well, no, they got all that knowledge from the Collector. I mean, they showed that they could use the Infinity Stone to destroy the planet by touching the stone to the ground. Like, that was all things they showed during their time at the Collector.
Yeah, but that was just like some other guy with the stone. Like, so is like the logical leap then like Ronan is like just the same thing? Like, I mean, again, like I'm just saying there's sort of this like magical artifact that they've never come into contact with before, and then they're just sort of supposing that like if Ronan gets the stone, it's not going to blow him up. He's going to be able to wield it, and then he's going to be able to cause like the same levels of destruction as everything else. But like they don't like really know any of that because like the Infinity Stone is like a completely unknown thing to them up until that moment. And then they're just sort of certain about like what the impacts of it are going to be.
Well, so another concern that I had was that like every time something happened with the Guardians, somehow like the Ravagers would also end up knowing how like what they were up to, and then also Ronan would know what was going on, because like as soon as Ronan got the orb, it's not like he was there with the Guardians and the Collector, so it's not like he could have known that the orb had an Infinity Stone in it. But then like when he's talking to Thanos, he's like, well, now that I know that the orb has an Infinity Stone in it, I'm gonna keep it for myself. But it's like nobody told him that's what was going on. And then also there was like a mention of I think it was either Quill or Gamora told Yondu, was like, yeah, but like we can't like give this to Ronan because it has an Infinity Stone. He's like, I know what's in there, or something like that. And it's like, how? Nobody told you.
Well, no, but it seems like Infinity Stones are not unknown in the universe.
Yeah, but
right?
nobody
like,
except the Collector knows that the orb has an Infinity Stone in it.
How do you know that?
Because
there's multiple people that are already going after it, and they're not just going after it because it's an orb.
All they know is that it's valuable. Even Gamora didn't know it. Like, even Ronan didn't know at the beginning. But then, like, as soon as Ronan gets it, somehow he's like, now I know it has an Infinity Stone in it. That's when he learned, was when he got it. But it's like, nobody told you.
I don't see Yondu just going after something because someone says it's valuable. Like,
I think that's exactly what Yondu's.
Yeah, I feel like that's his whole thing. I'm actually going to butt in here for a moment and say that's literally why he goes after things. That's his character.
I think that he's more tuned in than we're giving him credit for. That's what I think. I think that they've been doing this for clearly at least 26 years when they picked up
But
Quill,
like not long enough for him to like not fall victim to a bait and switch right at the end, you know?
Yes,
True.
exactly.
So like,
Yes.
you know, I mean, I mean, it's like it's like pure profit driven thing, but he is still kind of
But
bumbling
he-
in his own right.
But he also just saw that when you open it up, that it can literally destroy.
Not
and
what he saw,
explode
though.
everything
What he
that's in
saw
place.
was that when you open it up and you touch it, it can like, which is the reason he decides to open it again, like right at the end, because he saw the whole thing, so he knows if you don't touch the stone, you're fucking gravy.
I also think that was a soft spot for Quill, because even when he opens it up, he's not angry or upset. Like, I think that that's him also kind of protecting Quill to an
Well,
extent.
I thought
he's not going to go and kill him.
Smiles at the little, what is it called? The little troll.
Troll doll.
Yeah, the little
Yeah.
troll. I thought he smiled because he was like, "Oh, like I taught him so well. He learned from me, and like, good job, Quill." Like that's
I think
my
it was
boy.
partially that too.
Yeah.
But I think that he wasn't ever actually going to kill Quill Volume 2.
Yeah. I agree. I don't
No,
think he was going to kill Quill Volume 2.
Volume 2.
All right.
Yeah.
So I
anyways,
guess
okay,
we
so-
all agree.
Yeah, I guess we all agree on everything. The Nova ships with the giant shield formation. I really like this. I thought it was a cool use of the way that the ships were designed, and a cool way to keep the ship from kind of making its entry down onto the ground. And this allowed the team to get into Ronan's ship. And Groot makes a human kebab with people, again being the most brutal character
Yeah.
in this movie. I really like just how James Gunn was clearly trying to push the envelope as far as he could for PG-13. And I thought that he did a pretty good job of doing that without being able to actually explode heads.
Yeah, I liked the human kebab part. Like that was like probably my equivalent of like how other people felt in the Avengers when Hulk like smashes Loki around or whatever. Like that did nothing for me. But when he like shish kebabs everyone and then is just slamming them into walls, that was fun. I have a soft spot in my heart for people being impaled, and I'm glad that we got that in this movie.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
good.
what I really liked about the final like fight scene was, I don't know if this is just like me being nostalgic for this type of thing, but when they're like all in their spaceships and everyone's shooting at them, there's like a bunch of things going on, and it seems like they're being overwhelmed. There's no way out. And then like the music cue changes and you see like other ships coming out of nowhere and firing at the enemies, and then it's like, oh, reinforcements have come, and it's like the close up of the Xandarian dude, and he's like, yeah, we got your back, and it feels very like Star Fox.
Yeah,
You know?
totally, dude. Yeah, 100%.
It's very Star
Yeah.
Fox, and I don't know, that just always hits me whenever that happens.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Except none of them did a barrel roll. So
none of them did a
it's
barrel
unfortunate.
roll. None of them screamed, "You'll never defeat Andros." But
Yeah,
It
we
was still
also they start dive bombing the planet, and people
yeah.
are getting
Yeah.
fucked up, and we get another classic air horn. Can we get a little?
Here we go.
Whoa, hey, what's up? It's Christian's classic Marvel trope corner. We get a child in peril at this point, which didn't even really, and actually that is Jonathan Riley's child, as you will come to learn later, but you don't know it at this point.
Jonathan Riley.
Yeah, it's your boy, dude. But you don't know it yet, but you have a scene where everybody's dive bombing the planet. And if the stakes aren't high enough, also we get a close-up on a child who, that's going to be in danger. And so if you thought that Ronan was the kind of guy that spared women or children, we get a nice establishing shot showing you that's not the case, and he's actually just as evil as you think he is. And it's been implied, but you haven't seen the danger in front of you until this point.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
he doesn't give frankly a hoot. He does not give a hoot about
Not a single
yeah.
hoot.
Not a
Wow,
single
wow,
one.
wow.
And they're like, oh no, what are we going to do? And then of course he uses his staff to blow a hole in their defensive barrier, and now shit's gonna pop off, maybe.
Yep.
I forget, is that before or after the Guardians go into the room? Doesn't he blow up the barrier and then they get there, or do they get there first and then he defeats them and then they blow up the? Either way, this is a classic staff moment where it's like, what the fuck does this thing like do? Because it's kind of like, okay, it has like the destructive power to like destroy the entire planet, as we know. But also, when the Guardians of the Galaxy come into the room, he's just sort of like shooting energy orbs at them that are just kind of incapacitating them. But then he like fires like a missile thing at like the web that's around his ship, and it like blows it up. But it's already been established that he's like really into murder, so like why wouldn't he just like kill them? But like he needs to like get to the planet and like stick the staff into the ground to blow the planet up. But then like that's not coming from the top of the staff anymore, that's like a bottom of the staff thing that now needs to happen. But couldn't he just like blow them up? But like he like doesn't. But it's like he's not like, he like wants them dead, and they're all there, and then they're and then instead of like finishing them off, he's like monologuing. Like the whole thing was kind of a mess to me. Like I didn't really understand what the fuck was going on, and then he just sort of leaves them to their own devices as he exits the ship. It was very strange. It was just weird.
Yeah, it was like two separate things happening
Yeah.
in the same location.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, so the ship is now falling
Okay,
towards Xandar.
nothing to say about that, Dan. We're
I'm
just
not-
blowing
I'm
past
not.
that. Okay.
No, because you understand it all, you just don't like it necessarily.
just like
when
what
you look
happened.
at it with such critical eyes, yeah, like I sure I could pick apart any one of those things you just said. Like totally get it, understood. I could also say that maybe he didn't do a giant explosion to kill the Guardians because he's standing there on the ship that needs to make it down to the planet, and that the staff wouldn't necessarily prevent fall damage for him. Like if he were to get exploded out of the ship and fall down onto Xandar, that he would just survive because he has the staff. So maybe that's why he doesn't create an explosion that would kill the Guardians. Just a thought. I don't know. It didn't necessarily stick with me the way that it stuck with you, clearly.
Yeah.
I think that you're just mad that Christian has taken a proverbial Loki's rod to your Xandarian defense and blasted a hole through it.
I don't think that's what happened. Now we get to probably Christian's favorite part of the movie, where Groot realizes that they are falling towards the ground,
Right.
and they're going to need to figure out a way to survive.
Oh, boy.
And so Groot grows a giant tree circle thing around them to shield them from impact.
Right.
Where the first time ever he says, "We are
Dude,
Groot."
seriously,
agree.
and you're right to call this out, Dan. I fucking hated that.
I know. I just knew you would. I just knew.
because it's like Groot's like a fun character, like legit. Like I know I'm kind of like whatever, like shitting over this movie, but it's like Groot is fun. Like I probably like Drax more on the Guardians of the Galaxy tier list, but Groot's like a close second. Like it's fun, and I sort of like the the I am Groot like component. Like it's it's simple and it's cheesy, but like it works and it's endearing to the kid. It's like it's fun. Rocket being the only one that can understand the various complexities of the three words, like it's kind of cool. I don't know. And I feel like in that moment you could have just had another I am Groot. Like you could have done that, and I almost think that like it would have worked in like sort of the James Gunn humor realm that way too, where like it sort of would have been its own kind of tension cutter, because like as they're falling to their death and he knows that there's a chance that he might not survive, his final words are I am Groot, and it like it's sort of like whatever. But then just like the we are Groot thing, thing like just was cheesy. Like, but it was like not like fun cheesy. It was just like silly. Like I didn't like it very much.
Okay,
Wow.
but okay, would you think that the scene would be better if everything's crumbling around them and then Groot's like, "Oh no, I gotta save everybody," and then out of nowhere, an Iron Man suit flies onto Groot.
Flies onto Groot, right, and then he climbs
yeah.
over them and holds them as they're like plunging to Earth. Yes,
God.
that would have been
Okay.
better. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
All
that makes sense.
right. Okay. Now we're down on the surface of
Wait, no.
Xandar.
Okay,
no, come on.
I'm actually curious though. Legit, Dan. Did you like that part? Like, did you feel like that was like appropriate? Like, you know?
Yeah, it was a nice, like, whatever, sappy kind of like friendship moment of Groot stepping outside of his normal cadence to show a kinship with the rest of the group. And maybe that, you know, we don't know a lot about Groot's background, that maybe their language is to only say one thing and leave it all up to whatever, I don't know, interpretation, but maybe that
Maybe he's like a Hodor.
yeah, like
Yeah.
maybe that in this moment he felt like he could reveal more of himself in this moment to show that he was building this relationship with these people enough to be able to save their lives at the cost of his own. Like that's the way that I took it,
Yeah.
being someone who maybe could look into more of the magic versus the technical detail
Sure.
of the scene at hand.
But I think him creating the shield already did that though. Like that's like it's like the whole character arc that you're describing. Like he already accomplished that by and then the spores, like the bio. It's kind of pretty inside.
I think it's the difference between him being a weapon or shield versus him being a friend.
Yeah.
That's what the way that I get it. Because it's like all of those other things you just mentioned are tool sets, right? They're just things that he's doing to provide a tool set of options to the people he's working with. That doesn't necessarily outline friendship in that moment.
I feel like the friendship component came from, because I actually agree with that point, but I have one stipulation, which is that like if it was just the shield, then totally I think that that's fair. But I think the fact that he like put like the spores like inside of the little shield thing and it's all kind of like, you know, magical and nice and he's sort of like solemn while they're all like that seemed like the friendship gesture to me, is that it's like he like created this thing and then he sort of created this magical moment inside of the thing. Like I already sort of got that that's what was happening before the "we are" group. But like I almost feel like it like pushed the point a little too far for me, where it was already sort of established that that's what was happening. I didn't need like extra establishment on top of it. It's like I already sort of understood.
I did.
Okay,
I
well-
needed it. So,
So like,
yeah.
I'm gonna take this in a different direction. So like, the fact that Groot was able to change the phrase "I am Groot" to "we are Groot" shows that he has the capacity to speak other people's languages, but just chooses not to the entire movie. And it's like, how long have you been riding around with Rocket Raccoon while Rocket's speaking English and everybody else in the galaxy also seems to know English, but you're just here like the asshole who doesn't want to change his language to like be able to communicate with other people? But like, obviously you can. You changed "I" to "we," and you
Yeah.
understand the concept
Or-
of "I" and "we."
Or maybe it is something that is again. You know what? Fuck it. I'm not gonna go. No. You know
No,
what?
no,
No,
keep going,
I think
keep
we've
going.
gotten way. No. I can't do it. We've gotten way too far into this. We'll create another podcast episode just to talk about this one moment. Okay. All right. They make it to the ground. Now we're gonna go to a very special, exclusive, one-time only Dan's nitpick corner.
Oh shit! Whoa!
Yeah, there we go. Whoa.
Whoa. Okay. Thanks for the dabbing.
You're very welcome.
You couldn't catch it on the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. When they get to the ground and they show the kind of impact of the ship and everything else, I don't know why, but the Groot remains felt super cheap to me. They just looked like twigs. And like Groot, when you look at him, he's more than just twigs, right? He's got like armor pieces. Like he's kind of built out to have like different styles and stuff. But if you look on the ground when they land, it's all just straight twigs on the ground, like pulled directly off of a tree without any shape or turns or curves or anything. And so something felt cheap about that. Even when like Rocket picks up some of the remains of Groot, they're all just straight twigs. And I don't know if that's maybe the magic of the way Groot is built, whatever. I'm making it up, but it's like, I don't know. I don't know if you noticed that too, but they were all just straight lined twigs on the ground. And there was a lot of them that didn't catch on fire, that didn't like do anything. They were just twigs on the ground.
No, I did absolutely notice that, for whatever it's worth. Like, it sort of struck me as like Groot's remains. Like, if you were to pile them all back together, you wouldn't be like remaking a Groot. You know what I mean? Like, it would be like some other shit. Like, yeah, totally. It would have been cool if there had been some like, you know, just like gore, but like Groot gore, like not like gore, like, you know, a fucking severed head or whatever, but like, you know, like what the Groot sort of equivalent of that would be, with like gnarled logs or like, you know, chunks of wood or whatever. But yeah, it was all these like similar sized individual like pickup sticks, like just sort of everywhere, scattered in the area. Yeah, I agree. It was a little strange to me too.
Yeah, and really neatly laid out too, by the way. Like they were all in the same direction. I don't know. It was just really kind of a weird thing to kind of take away from Groot's death almost. Yeah. It felt kind of cheap there. Ronan steps out. He names them the Guardians of the Galaxy. This is your Guardians of the Galaxy? Yeah. And a big Ronan speech, which...
Yeah, and I actually stood up and started clapping as soon as he said that.
I know. I could tell. Yeah. And then you got interrupted from your clapping with Peter Quill dancing and singing along to the background.
You know, can I actually hit you with a little bit of a contentious take right now? Air horn, please. Hey, what's up? Welcome back to Christian's Contentious Take Corner. I actually liked this. I thought that this was you know what? I actually thought, like, given everything we had seen in the movie up till this point, I felt like it was a totally... Because you run into an issue with something like this where it's like, okay, like, so like staff power level weird shit aside, right? Like you have this thing, this being of untold power in front of you right now. So it wouldn't really make sense to have like a duke out where then they like win again. It's like, you know, they sort of establish that it's like, okay, he got the Infinity Stone. He is so strong now that, like, you know, the most powerful beings in the universe couldn't possibly hope to, like, contend against him. And so I think it would have been cheap or weird if they had tried to do a, like, okay, but Peter Quill is the one guy that, despite all odds, can, you know, like, win in this thing. It's like they sort of had to abandon hope of actually, like, besting him in a combat scenario. But it's sort of been established the entire time that, like, Peter Quill, it's like he's kind of goofy, he's quick on his feet, he's like always sort of coming up with whatever the next thing's going to be. And the dancing scene, like, I think it worked really well because it was sort of like weird, but it was also kind of like funny in the same level of humor that the entire movie had sort of been presenting up till that point. And it was like a very in-character thing for Peter to do. And it was like a completely appropriate solution to the problem that the Guardians of the Galaxy had in front of them, which was that none of them could possibly hope to fight Ronan now in his like supercharged state. So I thought it was like actually, and it was like very different than the general kind of climactic finales of other Marvel movies up till this point, which still sort of stuck in character with like who, you know, the Star-Lord is or whatever the fuck. So like I thought this was good. Like it was a good end to the whole thing. And one more little thing I'll throw on top of it too is that even though it was weird, it felt appropriately climactic. Like even like because something like that, I think, could kind of kill the buzz. I mean, I think we even saw that a little bit in like the first Captain America movie, where I was saying like Red Skull. It's like the fight had been hyped up for so long that then the fight happens. And it's like it's so quick, and it didn't maybe necessarily feel like it did Red Skull the justice I would have liked to have seen. But this it's like it still showed Ronan's power. It sort of showed the strength of Peter Quill, which is the quick thinking, and it like sort of showed all of the Guardians of the Galaxy like kind of working together in unison. It was like it had like all the components for like a good finale, and I think it was like good. I actually really liked how they handled this.
Yeah, I personally hated it. So,
Not magical enough for you?
yeah, I mean, would you like it more or less knowing that they took that dance and made it a Fortnite emote?
You know what? I think I like it more.
There you go. Well, there's the
Okay.
answer.
There it is.
everybody.
I have a question. What?
Yeah.
What was Ronan's plan? He like has a ship crash to the planet, and then he's like,
Mhm.
"I have the stone. I'm gonna destroy all of you." But he's like also on the planet. Like,
Well, I mean, yeah, but the shockwave goes in front of him,
Right.
and he's not going to destroy the entire planet. He's really destroying that main city where the people
Right,
live.
but and also you need to understand, Shatter, you need to understand, John, that the staff does everything. So
okay.
it's like
oh no, okay.
he
I
needs to
get it now.
get it into the ground, and then as soon as he gets it into the ground, you're going to come to find that the staff also, unbeknownst to you, it also does this other thing that has never been established, which lets him
teleports
like
him.
turn into like it teleports him, or it like summons a mech suit, or it puts a shield around
Okay.
him, or it like allows him to grow giant galaxy wings, or it'll do something. He needs to get it into the ground, and then phase 2 of the staff will activate, which will
Gotcha.
magically save him.
Good thing we never find out.
And
So-
because frankly, that would have been, whoo, man, I shudder to imagine the second stage of the staff and what that would have looked like.
yeah, the staff actually puts Groot back together as a shield that goes around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but
Yeah.
now he's evil. It harkens back to the Avengers. It's also a mind control device,
Right.
but only for Groot.
And he goes, "I am evil Groot."
Then he goes,
Yeah.
"We are evil Groot."
They're all able to hold on to the Infinity Stone and then destroy Ronan. And he says, "We are the Guardians of the Galaxy." Duh,
Bitch.
That's the name of the movie.
Yeah,
Bitch. Yeah.
yeah.
And then we get to the wrap up here of the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, where he's gonna hand over definitely the real orb to Yondu.
Wink,
It's
wink.
for sure it. Wink, wink. But Yondu, don't open it, because you know what happened last time it was open. And that's that. We find out that Yondu and the Ravagers were actually hired to hand Quill over to his dad. Oh boy. We also find out that Peter is only half human and half something else ancient.
Yeah.
Which I wonder if that'll be explored next movie.
Probably not.
I don't think so.
No,
Yeah,
well, maybe not.
I imagine that they'll just sort of leave that there.
Yeah, and so all their records are now expunged. They rebuilt the Milano for Quill and the team from John C. Reilly. Thank you so much, John C. Reilly,
Thanks,
for
Wreck-It
handling
Ralph.
that.
Big
for the
ups.
team.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks, Wreck-It Ralph. And now for Christian's other favorite part of the movie, opening the letter from his mom,
Yes.
including the new cassette tape with Awesome Mix Volume 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of already get. I sort of shot my wad on my
And there
thoughts
it
on
is.
that in like
Yeah,
the
I
first
know.
10 minutes.
Utilized
but
it.
Yeah, I
There you go.
thought that was goofy. That was.
And really great.
That was a
Got
that
it,
was
yes.
that was a Dan thing. That was like they did
Okay.
that for Dan.
They did.
They did,
Yeah,
and I
they
liked
really
it.
did.
And that's it. We see some baby Groot, which clearly now is growing from one of the twigs that was on the ground, is now growing to be another Groot. Which, by the way, just to establish this now, that is not Groot. That is Groot's offspring.
Yeah, and this one.
So
can't say the word we, I'm assuming. So
Yes, correct.
so the other Groot finally was able to say the word, but now it's like, thankfully, everything's wrapped up in a neat little package. This one cannot use the word we, and then we're right back to where we started.
And that's that. And Groot is dancing in the pod, and every time Drax looks over, he stops dancing.
You know what?
It's a very cute little moment.
This is one of those moments where I'm gonna be a bit of a Dan right now. Even though it like absolutely makes zero fucking sense as to what, like, Groot's not even looking at Drax, like he's faced away from Drax, and even if he was looking at Drax, why would he stop dancing? Like, is he like, does he feel shame or embarrassment? And also, where's the music coming from? Like, it's like all of that being said, though, I liked it. It was fun. That was a fun little send off to the movie. Yeah, I know. He puts the cassette into the fucking thing, and you see it, and it's it's the volume 2, and it's playing over the speakers. Yeah, I know.
Okay, so you know where the music's coming from.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So one of your points is taken away.
I'm fucking agreeing with you here, okay? Like, listen, dude, I don't need you to dogpile on top of me during the, you know what, I'm trying to extend a little bit of an olive branch at the end of the podcast. I feel like we're getting kind of piled on.
Okay. Yeah, just a little bit. And then our mid-credit scene showing the Collector in the rubble and Howard the Duck.
Yep.
And
Howard the Duck.
That's it. Howard the Duck makes a little appearance.
Which I kind of thought was like an odd decision to like end it, because so often they sort of end them on like something like huge, and I don't know, man. I mean, maybe Howard the Duck is like a huge thing for like fans of the Marvel universe or whatever, but it's just like all of the other endings kind of up till now have been this like big sort of like, here's what you get to look forward to next. And then this one, it was just kind of like, hey, it's Howard the Duck. And it was like, what? And then it was done. I was like, okay,
I think this was James Gunn just like doing a funny take on an end credit scene and saying, fuck it. Like, that's it. That's what you get.
Yeah, that was like the deal. Like, I wasn't upset by it. I was just like, oh, that's odd that was the end. But yeah.
And there it is. And that was Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this movie, so I think we should go over some final thoughts and ratings.
Yep, final thoughts and ratings. I guess I'll kick us off. So, of course, as you all know, at the end, I say something I liked about the movie in earnest and give it my rating. Dan says something that he did not like about the movie in earnest and then gives it his rating. And then we let John take us out with some final thoughts as well as his rating. So I would say, I mean, I already kind of maybe spoiled the big reveal of what it is that I like, but legit, I think art direction on this movie was fucking amazing, actual, and like beyond just like good, like beyond like serviceable or beyond like interesting, like it was like top shelf. Like this was like some top shelf like imagery that we got to see throughout this thing. I really liked the colors. I really liked the sort of creative imagining of space and just like the like subtle things that they would do, like scenes where people are talking and there's like 3 suns, you know, and it's not like at any point someone's like, oh, it's very hot on this planet because of these 3 suns, you know, it's just shit just like happening in the background that if you weren't really trying to pay attention to it, you would miss it, you know, like and I feel like, I mean, the most boring part of the entire movie visually is like the hospital and Earth. And that's just like right at the beginning. And I think it's also sort of meant to kind of be like that too, because it sort of juxtaposes, you know, Peter on Earth versus his new crazy adventures that he's having in space. But like kind of as soon as you get to like the space parts, it's like every scene has like cool shit. And I feel like they push like the boundaries on a lot of stuff because like all the mechanical stuff is like wild and cool and mechanical, and the space stuff is like wild and cool and spacey. The character designs are like wild, like and, you know, I was saying it before, too, but, like, even the extras, like, you know, and even, like, parts where it's, like, you get into, like, the collector's lab, like, you know, just the amount of shit to look at in all of the scenes was just, like, really great. I actually legitimately thought that the art direction in this movie was fantastic. And I think that it was sort of the saving grace of the movie to me, honestly, because, you know, that was like the thing that I had to latch onto while I was watching it. All that being said, 4 out of 10. I feel like it suffered from some pacing issues. I didn't like the characters that much, really. I thought We Are Groot kind of
4
fucked it
out
up.
of 10.
And I thought
Jesus.
that the Infinity Stone was kind of lame, and it just did a Loki's rod thing right there at the end, where I was like, what the fuck does the Infinity Stone actually, whatever the fuck. Anyway, 4 out of 10, but watch it if you like art direction things. That's my final rating. I would recommend this movie to anyone who asked if they wanted to watch it and seemed interested, but if you don't, then I wouldn't
Okay.
recommend it.
Well, that's great. Okay. Well, good. That all lines up appropriately. Let's see. 2 things actually I didn't like about this movie, if I have to pick things out, which I do apparently. The rushed story and the 5-minute sequence at the start, knowing how important Kree are to the future of like the Marvel universe over the course of the next phases. It was very rushed. It's the first time I've ever, throughout our whole podcast, had to rewind and listen again to make sure that I caught everything, which means that there are definitely things people did not catch when listening to this. And so, yeah, there were definitely some pacing issues, at least there for sure, when they were trying to tell the actual overall story. I did like obviously the character building and the characters throughout this movie, but some of the overall world building was kind of skipped over or just really rushed through. And then the twigs, just I don't know what it is. The twigs just stick with me. I thought it was really
The twigs
lame.
just stick with you. Whoa.
Okay. Anyways, so yeah, that's my thoughts. But I enjoyed it. It was a great origin story movie. Which, if you think about it, I mean, this was an origin story. And what I liked about it, though, was that it didn't feel just like an origin story. It just felt like we were continuing on a journey and more people were joining as we went. It was a cool way. Anyway, so I would put this movie probably under some of the other, like, Captain America ones. I would probably put this at like a 6.8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it, but I don't know, like, while I really enjoyed the character development, there was, for me, also some pacing issues through this movie, either moving too fast or gaps where, like, it seemed like things could be filled in. So I really enjoyed it, but I would say that it wasn't necessarily the top tier for me.
Interesting. Okay. So I mean, I gotta agree with both of your guys' points. I'm not gonna go and like recap, but I think that something that is not understated, sorry, something that is overstated about this movie, but I'm gonna have to go and comment about it here as well, is the use of the soundtrack really sets the mood for a lot of this movie. And usually when people use, like licensed popular music in movies, it gets used like very poorly, and you're like, oh, we're hearing another one of these songs. But the entire time, they use the music pretty tastefully, and every time they put one of those licensed songs in, it like fits the mood very well, and it doesn't really like distract you from what's going on the screen. And I think it was like really essential to the world building. So the movie gets a lot of points for that. I like how we mentioned before that the movie is not really only about Quill, it's about Quill and the group as a whole. Like, none of the characters really take too much time from each other, but they all kind of mesh together as a team. I thought that was really well done. But it does suffer from, like you said, pacing issues, and I don't know, like, people just get information somehow out of nowhere where like they weren't there to hear the information that was given to the heroes of the movie, but somehow they know anyway, and that kind of threw me off a little. And the humor, I don't know, maybe it's just like I'm getting James Gunn overloaded for the past couple of years, and I'm getting tired of his type of humor. It's like he just kind of shotguns it. He's like, we're gonna throw as many jokes as we possibly can, and a lot of them are gonna land, and it doesn't matter if some of them don't. And I think it kind of works for him, but I am getting tired of it. It's like the Lin-Manuel Miranda of like comedy.
He shot, James gunned it. Okay, go on.
Nope.
No.
That was it. Yeah.
Rating, surprisingly, I'm gonna put this at a 7.4 out of 10.
Ooh.
I thought that,
Wow.
Wow.
That's a spicy
I thought
rating.
that it was fun. The humor hit more than it missed, and I liked all the characters. I don't know what to say. It was a colorful, vibrant, genius movie. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody.
thanks for listening.
Another podcast in the catalog of podcasts.
Yep. All right. Yeah. This has been another exciting episode of Guardians of Cape Shit. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.